privilege to welcome Supervisor Ernst to our committee. So thank you for stepping up and joining us.
Thank you.
We will go forward here with approval of the agenda. We get a motion.
Second.
We have a move and a second. All those approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Alrighty, item number 3, public comments. We will take public comments at this time. It looks like we have anyone on Zoom at this time? Probably not. But we do have some folks if anyone wants to speak at this time.
You want me to speak?
I'm just looking at you. I can pull you in the conversation. too.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just looking, going once. Sold. All right, item number 4, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Can we get a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Second. I'd like to make some corrections though to the minutes. If you could go through every word where my name is spelled wrong, correct it please. B-R-E-N-N-A-N-D instead of A-R-D.
I will just abstain from this vote since I was not in attendance at this last one. So,
I will be abstaining as well.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, item number 5, consideration of the vote of resolution amendment section 0.0, role of the county board supervisor of the rules of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to add section 0.4 addressing the use of Winnebago County owned electronic devices by Winnebago County Board of Supervisors and outlining consequences for misuse of such electronic devices. This proposal was brought forward by Supervisor Kay Huran, who is here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the floor, try to sum up kind of where we're at, what the resolution is and how it got to our committee.
It turned out that in April, we started this resolution, and in starting it, our corp counsel and director of IT was involved in starting to pull it together because we felt that was the best thing to do. It went in May to the Judiciary Committee, and we went through and made some changes to it. That change was brought to the county board in May, and it was decided at that point that it needed to go back to the Judiciary Committee, which it went about doing. And I've got the minute somewhere in here from that meeting saying that it was ready to go. There were changes made. It went to the county board. County board then said, we believe that it needs to be refined even more. And so it went back to Judiciary last week. And in doing that, they said it needed to come to this committee because y'all are an active part of what the resolution or what the rule is. So here we are here today, trying to figure out how we're going to bring this rule to the county board. My objective is to have it in our little rule book so that we know where we can find the information I don't know, I've got it down here somewhere, but to be able to look it up very rapidly and say, you know what? If I do this, this is the consequence. It is stated in the information Winnebago County computer use policy that we all had to sign before we got our county iPad, what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to behave. When I came on board, which was what, 18 months ago, I signed it and it went to administrative offices. And I tended not to be aware of what all of the consequences potentially were. And so I'm now a lot more aware of that. And there we are. Boom. I am working towards bringing forward a rule for the use of electronic devices that are owned by the county.
Okay. So we'll kind of open the floor for discussion. If anyone has any additional points, questions, we're kind of a little informal, since we do have obviously the supervisor that authored this resolution, so excellent, go ahead.
Just, you had mentioned another more refinement. Has that refinement been concluded, or is that something that would occur after we take a vote on this?
The refinement is, one of the reasons it's come here is to make sure that you all are comfortable with what is being stated in this resolution, or in this rule. So that's what it is. We do have many of them. I think we've got about 6 other counties that have come up with resolutions and rules and policies as to how county electronic devices are supposed to be used.
I do appreciate you taking taking this on specifically. This is 9 years in coming. I was hoping to have that done before I left the county board back in 2014, and this has been out there for too long.
It's long overdue, yes.
I appreciate your work on this.
Yeah, and that is absolutely one of the things that Patty had been discussing with us, that she had been, or you all had been working on this for well, 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, and we needed to get it sorted out.
Sorry.
No, I'm done.
So I actually just went back and watched the June JPS meeting, so I was up to date with what happened. Do you have a copy of what was like changed, altered?
It goes back to the original one.
So we're just at this original document and nothing else?
We're back to the first original document.
Okay.
Not the changes that were made
Got it.
at that meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
JPS thought it prudent to send it here
Here,
to do that.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other? Absolutely.
Informative point of information, I guess. Does the term computer system in the current use policy that we have says computer system, is that assumed to include like iPads and things specifically as well? Because the language, it seems, I think there's some vagueness in terms of some of the language in the current policy that I think like the document that we're looking at, even as it is now, helps address. I guess that's more of a statement than a question.
I absolutely agree with you. I was speaking with the Wisconsin Counties Association today, and they said you have to have a policy in place for using your county iPads. What's interesting is, and this is, I hope, Mike, where you might be able to come in and give us a little bit of guidance. It does not specifically say county board supervisors. It says, where does it say it? That it's used by the employees, any employee who has access to. So that is something that is being discussed right now. Are the supervisors employees? Or are we not?
Can I ask a follow-up
Yes.
question to
Can I just get,
Supervisor?
corporate counsel here to see what you got some input?
I just wanted to say, as you see, the first line says the computer system belonging to Winnebago County is to be used for business purposes only. So based on that, and yes, I think it could be refined. I would say that it could extend to supervisors. Then the next line is Supervisor Grant said is any employee who has access to the Winnebago County computer system. So then and I don't want to take a tangent, but the question that has come up, particularly regarding committee structure and the idea, not committee structure, and actually per diem structure, and whether supervisors are going to a salary versus a per diem situation. Based on the research I've done today, it is really not whether you are a per diem or a salary supervisor. It's actually the nature of the relationship that determines if you're an employee. And based on what I'm seeing, again, it depends on the situation. We've talked about, for tax purposes, supervisors get W-2s. Well, that would suggest that you're an employee. On the other hand, the county can't hire or fire you because you are responsible to the electorate. So that says you're not an employee. So unfortunately, it's not black and white. I would say, it depends on the situation, and if you're a quasi employee. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to know.
Thank you. Supervisor Down.
I guess my question is kind of a follow-up to what Supervisor Ernst had asked. And so do we need the language, the computer system, or can we change it or update to electronic devices or to electronic device?
In the,
This is our policy for everyone.
Sure.
So, I mean, if we're changing this, that's a whole separate thing, I
Okay,
think.
that's what I'm curious. to
Because
know.
this is the policy that's been in place. And yes, there's words that could probably be changed, but we all know how hard it is to change those words. So we haven't gone through that process recently. We're working on this year on refining our policy.
Sure,
So this was the only form
sure.
that we had that the board could sign to,
So this
manage.
language matches.
this language matches the policy everyone
Current policy.
signs. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So if we're changing this to like be separate for supervisors, that would be like two separate things then. And different from like this document.
Sure.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make sense?
So just so I am clear on what we're voting, what the vote does, the vote on the resolution changes the rules for the board. It doesn't affect this document that, every county employee or quasi employee signs, correct?
And elected officials.
What?
Elected officials sign this also.
Yes, yes.
And I guess for an employee, we have the employee manual, which goes into much greater detail in section 10 of our employee manual on computer use. There's many sections that detail this even further. So employees have this and the employee manual that refines this basic document.
So this resolution before us essentially like supplements the supplements the county policy, or helps
That's
clarify
my
in
understanding.
the same way that the employee manual does, sort of.
I think that's a good comparison.
Any further discussion?
I have one question, and that's for Supervisor Winnebago.
Absolutely.
You mentioned offhandedly earlier that you had some concerns about the length of the rule. Did you want to go over that or not?
over the, what,
Over the length of the rule that we're implementing?
I'm concerned about, if it goes into the rules book as 0.4, it's pretty lengthy. Because when I look at my rules book, I don't know, how long can they be, Mary Ann?
Whatever.
As long as
As
they're
long as-
warranty,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some pretty long, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
think
All right,
I
Okay.
do want to address that. I do think, if we decide to cut some stuff out and, try to condense it down, that can create some more vague clauses that are open to interpretation, right? Here, we're really laying things out. So I understand your concern, but I do think this is good by me, and I would hope other members of this committee, that it lays things out in very concise terms that this is what we as elected officials are expected to be, the standard we're expected to hit. Because we're expected to hit a higher standard as community leaders. So I understand the concerns about the length, but I think it's necessary after thinking about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, at the county board level, the very fact that we had worked at contracting it, that was where some of the issue was with it.
Other regional
Because
concerns.
it can create a host of opportunities for different interpretations, which
We don't need that.
Can I ask corporate counsel a question? On line 43, page 2, it says County Board Supervisors Ethics Handbook and Wisconsin State Statute. Should we list the statute or just leave it?
Well, the state statute is referenced in the ethics handbook. I think it's that.
Okay, thank you.
And the ethics handbook is what you all received after you proceed.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
I have another point I just wanted to raise that just occurred to me while looking through this, some of the other county policies. If I'm looking at lines 38 and 39 on the first page of the resolution, where it says, Winnebago County supervisors shall not use electronic devices to communicate with other Winnebago County Board supervisors during any Winnebago County meeting to discuss, collaborate, or influence a vote. Now, at least one of the reasons for that is to avoid open meeting violations. One thing that had happened or been somewhat common years ago is, city council members would sit there and have a real discussion texting each other during the meeting, which obviously was evading any public scrutiny or transparency, which was a big problem. This language is obviously designed to address that, but most of the other county policies I looked at don't have this conditional language saying you can't communicate with other board members during a meeting to discuss, collaborate, or influence a vote. Just say you can't communicate, no texting at all during a meeting with other board members, and I think that's preferable, because otherwise there are arguments, oh, I was texting supervisor so-and-so, but I wasn't trying to discuss a vote, I was just discussing the policy issue, and that's not, I think, the intent. I think the intent is to not have any communication at all during the meeting, as most of the other county policies say. So I thought the committee might want to consider, if you want to shorten it, here's 7 words that could be lopped. You could end the sentence on line 38 with during any Winnebago County meeting period, and delete the 7 words after that.
Any thoughts on that?
I have mixed feelings on that. I understand shorter would be better. However, it does reinforce the reason why that you should not be doing it.
I like the clarity in this says that.
I also like the clarity, just as nothing against you. Just as a mom, every once in a while at the meetings, I'll get text messages from my kids, like, someone stole my Legos and I need to text them back, that life will not end. So I don't.
Well, with that possible change, it
Sure.
would prohibit only communications, electronic communications between board members during a meeting. And eliminate all such communications, which seems clear to me then, communication just for specified purposes. Obviously, up to the committee, that's just my thought.
No, that's. Can you elaborate on your next feelings?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot, but.
having been in that experience in the early days, there were certain individuals that were more tech savvy than others. And they would be doing Google searches and doing things that were probably, it was nice to get the information, but was it really ethical to be doing that at the time of the meeting? One other thing too, which I'm sure is a possibility, if there is somebody that they feel is doing those types of things, I'm pretty sure they can do an open meetings request on that person's device, which then opens up a can of worms for that person that they may not want the public to have, even though it's specifically to what they're looking for under the open meeting laws. So I'm comfortable either way. It's just I do like the reinforcement of those specific reasons. You should not be communicating, period. But there are emergencies and you need to leave the room and do the text.
Sure, right.
And I would say at the county board level, I got the sense that they wanted more explanation. They wanted rationale for why.
Sure. Then I guess my only other comment would be, I wish we could change the title so it was shorter, because that's a mouthful.
You think?
It is. Well, can we just shorten it up or just leave it?
I'm at the point where I feel like we're gonna start chopping words, even out of that, it might lose
Yeah.
the
Got it.
intent of the rule.
Okay, not a problem.
This language has had false starts in the past, so, and boards have reverted back and it basically died in committee, so
Sure.
it may be best just to send it
Just
forward.
to leave it.
And then if it gets into that conversation on the board, that's where you can have that conversation.
And the board,
But if it passes, the title doesn't go in the rule.
Right.
Right.
No, I know.
That goes away with the resolution.
and the reason the board sent it back to JPS and this committee was because they didn't feel it was clear enough. And I would rather be more clear than less clear.
That's true. Any further discussion?
Yes, please, one more. That is, I know that there was very specifically a supervisor who said he wants to know that everybody signs this, not just the supervisors. I'm wondering if under the whereases, we say specifically that every county employee, executive, and supervisor signs this might be appropriate.
I think that's addressed
Yeah,
in lines 19 through 21, which I think you addressed. So every user of the Winnebago County network, including the individual elected officials, is not assigned credentials for access until the computer use policy is signed and received. So I think that your concern, I think that addressed.
Is addressed. Okay, perfect.
If I may, because there were some questions about, well, does the clerk of courts have to sign this? Does the register of deeds have to sign this? Or does the county executive have to sign that? I think that clarifies it fairly well. Got something?
I move to approve resolution 229-052023 to amend section 0.0 role of the County Board of Supervisors of the rules of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to add section 0.4 addressing the use of Winnebago County owned electronic devices by Winnebago County Board of Supervisors and outlawing consequences for misuse of such electronic devices.
Second.
Thank you.
Good. Say it again.
You have a motion and a second.
It's on video, you can replay it.
With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose, say nay. Carries. Alrighty. We will. Looks like we will go to item number 6 now on our agenda, the IT Director's report. Josie Petty, but you have to fill in, so.
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Ritten, I'm the technical support supervisor, so I supervise the help desk and the network team. So she wanted me to mention the redundant fiber loop update. They had awarded to the vendor, but as of the last we had heard, they were still working on paperwork for that. So there's no movement forward on that until we get all the paperwork from the vendor. And then our big project right now is the 365 update. And we're working through all those conversions and training. We have just about all the users done with the Outlook Exchange email portion, except for the county board. and we're working through like the stragglers that we missed in like our first pass. And now we're moving into teams, and a few departments have gotten that. That's a collaboration tool, and chat and things like meetings. And then we're starting our work on the cloud portion for our files, which is called OneDrive and SharePoint. So that'll be next. Yeah, so it's going well. And moving forward.
I don't envy you one bit.
It's,
I've done the conversion to the Microsoft realm, and it's definitely not,
yeah. There's a lot more settings than just flipping a switch.
Yep.
So there's a lot of back end work.
how are the employees taking to the changes?
I think that like the email portion was very, it wasn't much of a change because it looks the same, it feels the same, it acts the same. So until they realize that they have more storage, that will be the advantage there. Teams, I think we're gonna have to wait until people see the advantages of it. In IT, we've been using it for several months. And it's just a great collaboration tool. So I think once they start to see that, departments like health are much more on board because they just kind of had that collaboration piece already instilled in their culture. But then you have departments like treasurer, and it's literally 4 people within, throwing distance of each other. So, you don't necessarily need to chat with that person, they're right there. So, it's not always as applicable to every department as it might be, but I think once they start using it more and seeing those advantages, that it'll start to snowball, take off. Yeah. But we have training scheduled weekly on Teams right now, people attending that. And we go baby steps because we can't do everyone at once, it's just too much. So we're doing, 2-3 departments a week, and depends on the size of the department as well. So, yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, so those were the things she wanted me to mention, but do you have any questions?
I got one about the fiber. How has the city, particularly the police and fire commission, have they been good partners in this? How has the communication been and work together?
Well, we're certainly collaborating in that they are helping go off of one of our legs to get to some of their fire stations that they don't have connected to fiber. So far, it's been fine. City IT is always great to work with. We have a great relationship with Tony Millian, and so that's not a problem. Construction hopefully shouldn't pose any problems, but we haven't gotten too far in the process yet. So just because we're kind of held up with paperwork right now. Yes.
Has the material for that been ordered?
No, because,
Is
well,
Is that gonna be an issue, getting what you need to do your work?
so I guess I can't say that it hasn't because that's more on the vendor. If they have the materials, they might, I haven't heard that information, I guess, per se. There certainly could be a lead time. The bid that went out for it, I believe stipulated a date, and that was 2023, as far as I know. So, they have certain deadlines that they have to meet.
And dependent, if they can't get the material, then they come to you and say, we can't get the material, then what are you gonna do? Hey, I guess as long as that's been set up, somebody should follow up and just find out what their plan is.
Yeah, it was
Why
a-
don't you have your paperwork?
That's a great question.
So I just pass that on and find out and some follow-up, because they need to be pushed, and then construction for this year is pretty much filled up with contractors, so you're gonna start paying a premium for any work you get that done.
That's definitely on that vendor. Yeah, it's a public works project with a lot of rules, so if they don't fulfill it,
Can you say who the vendor is?
I believe so. It was an open bid and it was awarded to, I always get the two mixed up. NTD,
NTD.
not the other one. They have similar acronyms and I always get them messed up.
Okay, well, you have to get on them now because if it's expected to be done this year, it's getting late in the year already. I haven't serviced my
Completely agree.
snow blower yet, but I'm thinking.
After yesterday.
I know our purchasing department was attempting to get the paperwork that we needed from them, so
It's a struggle.
so far it has not arrived as far as I've heard.
Any other questions?
Are you using the Microsoft 365 cloud storage for any of our like documents or videos for the county?
Not at the moment, no. We would transition to that at some point,
Okay,
but not like specifically massive amounts of like we're playing, Teams has a component for file sharing, which is based on cloud storage. So as we're using Teams, we are putting files in the cloud, yes. But not on like everyone's files are in the cloud.
sure, not a problem.
Yeah, and eventually Zoom, our goal would be to replace Zoom with Teams, which would then be the meetings.
Perfect, thank you so much.
That was definitely one of the questions I was thinking about. So would we move away from Zoom then? If we are paying
Yes.
Teams?
Yes, I had one just today, one department had asked me and we'll be working on it. Yeah, it'll save that subscription cost for Zoom for the departments that have it.
Excellent. Other question? So, all right, thank you very much. Alrighty, item 7, subjects and time of the next meeting. Usually we're trying to do this about quarterly unless obviously special circumstances come up. Any other subjects at that time too can be submitted at any time. So we can get that on the agenda going forward. I believe it's going to be, do we have the date?
October 12th,
I was gonna say, the second week of October, I think is.
Yep. and then January 11th is the next one after that.
Alrighty, with
Just-
that.
I'm
yeah,
new,
Absolutely.
new, IT meeting, the same place, same time all the time.
Yes, we're trying to keep it consistent, so
Yeah,
unless, again, special circumstances.
right. Meeting 6 o'clock. And when was October 12th and
Yes.
what was the next one?
January 11th.
January. That's
We don't
next
get
year.
together often.
Yeah, next year.
Is that for the Christmas party?
Close. With that, I will entertain a motion. So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Opposed, we're adjourned. 6:34.